Hey, with you Evening Story Channel, I post new interesting stories every day. Subscribe and click the bell to not miss it.
The two young men sat on the bench with their heads down, sighing sorrowfully. From time to time, they cast a judgmental glance at each other and smirked understandingly. Alcohol and a violent temper, sooner or later, lead to problems, the solution of which requires even more strength than was required for their occurrence. What, am I gonna have to take the pots out for them now, or spoon feed them? It's a farce, for God's sake, Ethan said, his jowls rolling. What can I do, buddy? We had a great time, and now you have to pay for it. You know, you have to pay for everything. It wasn't my idea, Kevin said reasonably. In the office of their firm, they were called brothers. They were inseparable and went everywhere together. Ethan was the ringleader, of course, a wild party animal and an incorrigible womanizer. Being a representative of office plankton, he deep down dreamed of becoming a business shark, not realizing that for such a striking transformation, it was necessary, for starters, to at least get his heel off the chair. The bosses never relied on Ethan, assigning him unimportant, or as they like to say in such cases, adapted cases. He was an errand boy, dreaming of big boss status. For that, in his mind, it was enough to be in the right place at the right time and to go from pawns to ladies in an instant. If he'd written poetry, he could have been like Eastman, or rather, his dark-haired counterpart. But unfortunately, God had not given him the opportunity to write poetry, so he preferred to drink with Kevin, burning through his life and his savings, which were melting before his eyes. The boy's parents were Republicans, and for them, it came as a complete surprise that their only son did not share their ideals, showing an inclination to a life of debauchery. "So, when will we go to the wretches?" asked Kevin sadly, who had hoped until the last moment that the situation would be resolved somehow. "Well, big things don't get done on Monday, and even in the morning. Let's do it tomorrow, huh?" Ethan suggested, hopefully, feeling a terrible bout of laziness. "No, let's do it right now, if that's the way it is. Tomorrow or today doesn't matter. You'll have to work at the shelter for more than a month anyway," said the friend. "Well, let's go. God will not give out. The pig will not eat," Ethan said doubly. Not long ago, everything was different, and the friends, having fun to the fullest, did not notice how they crossed a dangerous line. Watching a match in a sports bar, one of the couple made a dirty joke about the opposing team. Of course, they couldn't know that half of the place is sitting with the scarves of the opposing side. Ended up in a fight, broken windows, and a night at the police station, but that wasn't all. With the look of a master executioner, the judge imposed 300 hours of community service, which they were to serve in the city's shelter for people with disabilities. It was located in the far side of the city, as if the authorities thus tried to hide from human eyes the unseemly truth of the wretched and poor of this world. "Abandon hope, everyone who enters here," Ethan said ironically, looking at the unsightly gray Soviet-style building with metal plastic window packages. What? What did you say?" Kevin asked. "Welcome to the realm of potties, diapers, and sterile, clean restrooms," Ethan snarled. It turned out that the management had already been notified of their arrival. The guests were welcomed, shown around, and the scope of work was explained. "Right, young people. I need an hour and a half from you on weekdays and 3 hours on weekends," the head nurse briefed them. As it turned out, they could only be entrusted with cleaning the yard of leaves, branches, and other garbage. Of course, the boys tried to evade the task, but such tricks with the sister mistress did not pass. One day, frantically wielding a broom, Ethan saw a young girl being led by 2 orderlies. Not that it was anything extraordinary, for the other patients were also being helped, but the girl was walked daily. Sometimes the attending physician walked in front of her. Ethan concluded from the way he behaved that the girl was well-to-do. The doctors behaved in front of her like a seasoned waiter trying to tip an oil shake. "Who do you think it is?" he asked his friend. He shrugged and shook his head vaguely, saying it didn't matter. But it did matter to Ethan. Like an experienced fox, he smelled that the henhouse, which was full of fat, appetizing birds, was unlocked. In his head, with the speed of light, different thoughts began to revolve. He saw that the girl was taken away on weekends by a huge BMW of the latest model, the cost of which exceeded the annual salary of all the medical staff combined, and Ethan felt that his star was lit up in the sky, promising a sweet and trouble-free life. The next morning, with champagne and candy, he went to the head nurse. There, he simply, unabashedly stated the essence of his request. Kelly was the epitome of a stern and principled woman, but unfortunately for her, she had a terrible sweet tooth. Of course, the addiction made her sad, but with champagne bubbles, any whim looks much more pleasant, wouldn't you say? So, with her support, Ethan held the stranger's hand the next day instead of the orderly. She had a long-standing spinal injury, and its effects were still affecting her years later. "What's your name?" Ethan asked at a moment's notice. "Why, are orderlies supposed to be so nosy?" the stranger said ironically. "No, I don't insist, of course, if it's such a secret. My name is Ethan," the boy said in a deliberately indifferent tone. "Why is it a secret?" "My name is Molly, I'm 30 years old, and I'm disabled. I'll be hopping around on crutches and trying on a wheelchair for the rest of my life. Is the question over?" The girl replied in a calm, devoid of life tone. Ethan's charm ran into an impregnable fortress, so he realized that his plan was going down the drain, which meant that he had to act differently and immediately, here and now. Running a daily candy and wine operation was clearly beyond his means. "You shouldn't say that, Molly. Believe me, it's not a judgment. I have an uncle who is cured. Eastern medicine, you know, works real miracles." Ethan composed as he went along, knowing full well that there were no such people among his relatives. The girl became visibly animated, and the cunning seducer felt that he was acting in the right direction. Step by step, he picked up the keys to her soul. The walk was quickly over, and after a dry goodbye, the girl retired to her room. It wasn't that she liked this guy with a cheeky, greasy look. It was just that there was something special about him, peculiar only to him. After all, so often it happens that the bad guys turn out to be very charismatic personalities. Molly tossed and turned, unable to sleep. She couldn't get Ethan out of her head, and his words, which gave her hope. In the morning, she looked for his figure with her eyes, but was disappointed to see that he was gone. Where is he? Where's he gone? Don't like me, or am I just pathetic? Molly thought sadly. Suddenly, a shadow grew in front of her. She looked up and there he was, Ethan, in full parade and with a huge bouquet of roses. And now, the center's services include flower delivery to the most beautiful girls. "Your candidacy won by the unanimous decision of the judges," smiled Ethan. Molly bloomed, probably even more brightly than the roses in her hands. She was not lacking in feminine beauty and grace, so the flowers emphasized her appearance even more. Today, they walked longer than usual. The guy was joking and cracking jokes, his charm mode on full blast. At some point, Molly felt that she didn't notice her inferiority at all. She, like any normal girl, flirted and made eyes, sighed languidly, and waited for compliments from her boyfriend. How she wanted to be happy. That happiness when you want the person you love to be there for you, for better or for worse. To drink tea in the evenings and discuss interesting books, to treat each other for colds, and in general, to rejoice in small things together, like a blooming cactus on the windowsill or bathing the cat. When you are confined to a wheelchair for half of your life, any kiss or hug acquires its own special meaning. Whether it was love at first sight is hard to say. Maybe if Molly had been in a different position, she wouldn't have needed this bastard. But as it was, he was like an alligator on the crossing, waiting for his time to treacherously attack her heart. "Why do you want her? Why mess with her head?" Kevin asked. He was a rascal, but he was not a mean-spirited man. "This is my golden key to a new life full of possibilities. You know what I mean? I'm tired of working for sweet daddies and shuffling my feet. Soon my time will come and I won't miss my chance," Ethan said with hope in his voice. Expectations, oddly enough, were not misguided. With Molly, they sought each other almost daily. Flowers, beautiful words, and cute trinkets that make a loving heart melt like chocolate in the tropical sun. One day, a girl decided to introduce him to her mom, Daria. Ethan prepared thoroughly, knowing that the woman was crazy about poets. But neither a luxurious bouquet of roses and quoting the words of the great poet, nor a disarming smile could not deceive Daria Ivanovna. She saw through him. After all, The daughter, blinded by love, was very gullible. In Ethan's eyes, the future mother-in-law saw only money signs like an ATM machine. He slept and saw when he could hold out his hands to them. Daria, I felt sorry for Molly. At the age of 15, she had been in a car accident with her father. The only thing that had saved her from death was the seatbelt, which had prevented her fragile body from being crushed. That day, the woman remembered forever when she lost her husband and became the mother of a disabled girl. The capital her husband had accumulated was enough to provide the girl with everything she needed, but money was not enough to give her love, and this young rascal did the impossible, instilled hope and faith in her heart for a happy future. "What are you looking at me like that for? It's like you're studying me," Ethan asked with a snide remark. "Yes, young man, I think. Are your feelings sincere?" asked Daria straightforwardly, without a shadow of embarrassment, as if not noticing her daughter's reproachful look. "I love your daughter more than anything in the world," Ethan said, knowing he had earned Molly's trust. The future mother-in-law remained silent, showing her contempt for the young man. "You understand, daughter. He's a crook. I can smell him a mile away. All he wants is your money, you know. Tell me, why does he need you?" Molly's mother asked harsher than she should have. "I'm 30 years old, Mom. Do I have to be alone and miserable for the rest of my life? Ethan loves me and wants to spend his life with me," Molly cried. As much as Daria resisted the wedding, it happened. On Ethan's side, there was practically no one there. Kevin, unable to watch Molly's deception, stopped talking to his friend. He couldn't accept this way of life and going head-to-head. It was modest and devoid of pathos. To bring Ethan into the family business, he was put in charge of one of the firms. He liked being in charge, but he didn't want to delve into the intricacies of market relations. In the morning, he could be found in a restaurant or a casino. By lunchtime, he could appear for 5 minutes in the office and then disappear again until morning. Fancy clothes, expensive cars, and gorgeous women surrounded him from all sides. Molly, unrequitedly in love, did not seem to notice his affairs. Ethan had had a secret for quite a while, which he had managed to keep hidden for a while. Before he met Molly, he had been in a relationship with Kevin's sister, Nancy. Our heartbreaker liked her, and deep down, she was like him. Once, in the heat of feelings, he shared with her his thoughts that it would be good to get rid of Molly and lead the empire on his own. Nancy, being a clever and far-sighted girl, took the conversation with her lover and recorded it on a tape recorder. Why? Let it be, it will come in handy, she thought. However, she found a use for the tape quite quickly. When she met Daria, she gave her the tape of her relationship with her son-in-law in exchange for money. The woman had not really complained about Molly's boyfriend before. Now she fully realized what kind of a snake she and her daughter had on their chests. After listening to the tape, Molly felt sick. She cried into her pillow all night while Ethan was having fun with his mistress. The next morning, she left the room with red, inflamed eyes full of pain and determination. The phone call took Ethan by surprise. He'd almost never gotten a call from Daria, and here she was in person on the phone. "Hello, Ethan? Come quickly. We have a misfortune. Molly has died. Became ill, fell. Cerebral hemorrhage." The shocked guy stood there and could not understand whether to rejoice or cry. The problem was solved by himself, and he did not have to get his hands dirty. "Well, now we can go nowhere in a hurry. My money won't get away from me," thought Ethan, and after another feast, went to bed. He came to his senses only in the evening, and wearing a mask of sorrowful bitterness, went home. Molly's mother, wearing a black shawl, met him on the doorstep. She looked at him reproachfully and said, "Couldn't you have gotten here sooner, Ethan? And why do you smell like women's perfume and wine? What's with the interrogation, Daria? What are you doing?" "I don't have to answer to you," Ethan snapped. That's how he talked. And how do such scoundrels like you grow out of puppies thrown into the water? "I don't know," my mother-in-law said angrily. "Guess what? Pretty soon, I'm gonna own all of this. And then we'll see how you sing. Now get out of here." "And I don't want you here," Ethan shouted, mouthing every word. The mother-in-law, without a word, packed up and went out into the night. In the morning, there was a knock at the door. My mother-in-law stood on the doorstep again. "What is it this time? What are you doing here?" Ethan asked grudgingly. "Honey, when is this house going to be ours?" asked a languid female voice from the bedroom. "It won't," came from behind Daria's back. Ethan turned pale and gulped for air. The mother-in-law stepped aside, giving the guest an opening. Molly stood in front of the astonished ex-husband, leaning on her cane. Limping, she stepped inside. "I'm sorry for all this theater, dear, but otherwise it was impossible. But I couldn't keep up with you. You're an expert on women's hearts. Well, it's unnecessary. Now, about the marriage contract. When you were in such a hurry to marry me, you didn't notice a tiny clause in the contract. Here it is, tiny. It says that if you lead an immoral lifestyle or unfaithful to me, I have the right to demand a divorce without any division of property. So, you are not the only smart one, it turns out. And now, goodbye. Thank you for the pleasant emotions," Molly said and turned on the recording of the conversation with Nancy and Daria. Ethan shivered and realized he'd been outplayed. No matter how cunning he was, he'd lost everything he had. The next morning, his belongings were thrown down the stairs. Ethan never appeared in Molly's life again. Our heroine has been healing her wounds for a long time, afraid to let anyone near her. And now, there are rumors that she has found a new love, but now it is a real one, without divorces and marriage contracts.